over the last few years, I've had several bikes. They're going through a slideshow right now, and I figured other people would appreciate the information on what I do to make money buying and selling dirt bikes, and this gives you a way to try different bikes out and see what you like. So, I've had about 70, maybe 80 bikes. I've kind of lost track. But I started out with $500. 2 years ago, I was still in college. I just didn't have much money in my name, so I borrowed money from friends and I bought my first bike, which actually was an FZ06. For those who don't know, an FZ06 is a Yamaha Street Fighter style bike. It's a 600cc and it's pretty fast. It was wrecked and I rebuilt it. It needed new forks, headlight, a few other things, tires, fenders, and naked bikes don't have a lot of fenders, but it's all it needed, and got it going and sold it and made my first $1,000. Now, the kind of goal in this whole operation was to make money, but also to try different bikes out. The bike you just saw was a KDX 200, as you can still see it's on the screen, and it was almost brand new from the original owner. This is one of my favorite bikes I've had the whole time. Bought it for 3,300 and sold it for 5 grand. It's kind of a risky buy because you just don't know how much it's going to go for, being that it's a collector item, but sometimes it's worth the risk. I've always liked the XR 250s. This is a 2002 I had. Super clean, but I had to make it that way. I bought a bike to donate parts off of it, bought it for 1,200, sold it for 18. Just an example of how you can make money on simple, fun bikes. This bike is a YZ490. Bought it for $1,000, sold it 3 days later for 2,100. All it needed was a spark plug and fresh gas. I've always liked these older bikes, the older two strokes especially, but the XRs can be my favorite. KDXs are something I really enjoy as well. I've thrown some clips of me riding from Colorado just as a background for while I'm talking, because my talking probably gets boring while I'm just blabbing away. But some more information I thought you guys might appreciate is, yeah, I like the older bikes, and yeah, they can hold good value, but the best idea and the best way you're going to make money is finding a niche market and or buying them at a really good price. What I like to capitalize on is the XRs and the KDXs mostly. KDXs are really good two-stroke bikes that have always been loved throughout most generations. They're a really good budget bike. They're simple to fix, and generally speaking, people will pay good money for them when and if you have the title, or if they're clean, or if they run good, because people know they have a good name for them, even though they stopped being made in 2006. Just like that, the XRs, same idea. They've been around for a really long time. Everybody knows the motors are bulletproof. Everybody knows you can rely on them, and I've had a few, and I've never really had any major breakdowns. I think the worst breakdown I ever had was probably a couple flat tires, and I want to say one of my friends dropped a valve, which is pretty bad, but it wasn't on a major trip, and he had over 200 hours on his top end. So that being said, it's, the new four strokes, you have to rebuild every 40 to 60 hours. I comfortably ride my four strokes, the old XRs, for at least 100 before I do a top end build. The money making aspect of this is pretty nice, and sometimes you make a lot of money in a month and sometimes you make none. I've had months where I'll make a couple thousand extra a month, or some months I only make a few hundred. And the risky part about this is a lot of things are out of your control. You could buy a bike and it could be a complete pile of junk that just happens to run while you're there. Obviously, a lot of times you can determine if that's going to be a good bike for you or not. But I've had all kinds of stuff happen. I thought the bike would run, and 5 minutes later it blew up while I was riding it. Literally, the second I got home, I bought a CR125, mint condition, 2004. 5 minutes into riding it, it blew the top end. And, there you go. Got to re-nickel the cylinder. Got to get a new piston and rings. There goes a couple $100 just like that, and a bunch of time. Obviously top end changes aren't hard, but my point is, you got to evaluate and be like, okay, let's see here. What's my time and my cost? So when I run my car or my truck to go pick up bikes, I always value my time at $100 an hour. And if I can't make $100 an hour, or at least I can't think I make $100 an hour, then I probably won't go buy the bike because it's just not worth the time or the use on my truck or the diesel cost or anything like that. I mean, with diesel being $5 a gallon, you know, $5.50 in some spots, I can't afford to just drive it around for fun, you know. What I did do is I switched over to driving a car. I got a Honda Fit with a trailer, and that has saved me so much money. I mean, gas is still expensive, obviously, but when I'm getting 30 miles to the gallon versus 15, and it's gas instead of diesel, it saves a lot of money. So there's things you can do like that, but obviously, if you're just starting off, you got to do what you can. You got to find bikes close by. Maybe you have to borrow a car or a truck or something to go get your first bike and start making money. Now, I don't necessarily recommend borrowing money to start. You can do it that way if you're 99% sure it's going to be a success of a flip, you know. But what you can do is work side jobs. Just save up a few dollars here and there, do some evening work, just a few hours here, there, and before you know it, you'll have 500 or $1,000, and that's how you start. And then from there on, you'll be able to try different bikes, you know, see what you like, whether it's two-stroke or four-stroke. Personally, I prefer two-stroke just because they're easier to work on, and the turnaround rate for me in my area is quicker. I live in Lower Michigan, and a lot of people just like to rip around in their fields, and there's a lot of cornfields around me. I'm actually pretty close to Redbud, so people like to go out there on practice days and just rip little 125s or 250s or, you know, whatever. Obviously, four-strokes are still good, but in my opinion, I think four-strokes cost more money to maintain and keep up. So that's why I avoid them personally. Anyway, just a short little video, and I figured you guys would appreciate kind of my thought process on it and how I did it. If you have any questions, leave a comment, and please like and subscribe if you want to see more content.